On this episode of MythBusters, a blast from the past. As Adam and Jamie hit the history books.
There will be a lot of fire, and I could get burned.
To explore an explosive myth from the Civil War.
Wow!
Did the Confederate Army build the world's first long-range missile?
In 3, 2, 1.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman.
This is gonna kill you.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
That's what I'm talking about!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
This one, I've been waiting for 3 whole years to make this one finally happen on the show.
It's got danger, gunpowder, so I'm all for it.
All right, so the myth is that late in the Civil War, the Confederate Army actually built, aimed, and launched a 2-stage rocket from Richmond, Virginia to Washington, D.C., almost 100 miles. Observers claim to have watched this rocket roar skyward, drop its first stage, and disappear from sight. Oh, yes.
It's a myth of ballistic proportions. The American Civil War was mostly slugged out with rifles and cannons. But did the Confederates have a secret weapon? Could they really have built the world's first long-range missile? The MythBusters and the build team are going to join forces to find out.
So where should we start with this?
Well, I think we can only begin with an examination of exactly what the state of the art of rocketry was, if any, at the time this myth is supposed to have happened, roughly 1865.
So what you're getting at is that we need to get a bunch of plans for these rockets, build them, and see how well they actually worked.
Shoot them off, see what they're capable of.
Okay.
First, before attempting to make the mythical 100-mile missile, the MythBusters are building short-range rockets that were used in the Civil War. When complete, they'll launch them to learn whether the long-range Confederate rocket is even plausible. But so far, this build isn't exactly a walk in the park.
6th. So, a 6th larger, that's...
With plans dating back over a century, this one is proving to be a bit of a brain drain.
2.3...
Until finally, Jamie gets some inspiration.
I'm building a replica of what is known as the Hale rocket, and that type of rocket is generally acknowledged as the state of the art in the Civil War era.
State of the art because over its 2,000-yard range, it had a hint of accuracy, brought about by tail fins that caused it to spiral through the air. Armed with dusty plans from the Smithsonian, Jamie sets his sights high. But in case Hale falls flat, Adam's building another retro rocket. And his, like the myth, is a 2-stager.
The Boxer rocket is actually a rescue rocket. It was made to fire from one boat to another or from the shore to a boat in need of rescue, carrying a line so that that boat could be pulled to safety.
The Boxer rocket's initial thrust came from the first stage. As that burnt out, it fell away, and the second stage fired up and carried the rope over 300 feet to the sinking ship. But for Adam, it's not all plain sailing, because no one seems to have built one for over 100 years.
I have no idea if this is going to work.
While the Boxer makes progress, the Hale is out for the count, because Jamie's made an error of schoolboy proportions. And to avoid public humiliation,
You know, if I don't talk, you don't get any good TV.
he's run away from the cameraman.
What happened?
Nothing.
Denial is a river in Africa.
Come on.
What happened? Did you accidentally weld the thing at the end of your pipe that was supposed to be a screw fitting?
Overzealous welding has sealed his rocket shut, and he's not happy.
We've had about like a couple of hours of playing around with the thing, and that's not interesting, but somehow when we screw up, everybody's all over it.
While a sulking Jamie has to start from scratch, Tori's busy building the Civil War rocket launcher.
It's a pretty simple design. It's just a channel that we're going to load the rockets into, and it's got 2 legs that support it in the front, and it also allows the angle to change. They're adjustable, so we can have different, angles of trajectory.
Time for a test, albeit with a flimsy firework.
I'm not really sure what this one's going to do. It might scream, it might explode, but okay. You know what, the rocket followed the channel perfectly and it sent it in the right angle. I just hope it's sturdy enough for the big rockets.
I know, that's gonna be a lot of thrust.
I got some more rockets, so maybe we should light off a couple more.
Yeah, like a couple at once.
Yeah.
While Pyro Tori gets his kicks, Adam's made a find that changes the Boxer and maybe the mythical rocket too.
Upon doing some more research, it turns out that nobody's ever seen one of these rockets. No one's seen one in a long time. No one's got one. No one builds them. So there has been some confusion as to whether or not it was a true 2-stage rocket or a compound rocket. And it turns out that it's a compound rocket. And indeed, it does not separate in the middle halfway through its ignition.
So the Boxer is not a true 2-stage rocket. The sections don't split, they simply burn through each other. The idea that the mythical Confederate rocket was a 2-stage must now be in doubt. As Adam puts the finishing touches to the Boxer, Jamie's come out of his corner fighting and is already attaching those revolutionary tail fins that spun the Hale rocket for accuracy.
There was a price to pay to make these spin. Even with this clever design, it actually reduced the total range of the rocket.
Range doesn't mean crap if it can't be accurate.
Yeah.
I'll take accuracy over range any day.
And that's the same conclusion as Mr. Hale drew.
I'm fairly happy with this. It's not a polished, shiny thing, but it looks like it means business.
At last, the rockets are ready. They just need the gunpowder fuel.
There we run into kind of a problem. I mean, first of all, it's illegal for you and I to pack black powder ourselves. But secondly, the pressures they packed these rockets under was really just monstrous, and that makes it even more dangerous.
Sounds like we need to get our old buddy Eric Gates.
Yeah, I think we should call Eric, and I think rather than go with black powder, we should ask Eric to supply us with some modern equivalent motors that replicate the amount of thrust and burn time of the Civil War era rockets.
Civil War rockets, but modern fuel. And for the imminent launch, the team head for the hills. The MythBusters have built rockets that date back to the Civil War. They're going to launch them in the desert to help them learn how to build the mythical Confederate rocket rumored to have a range of 120 miles.
We're here in the Mojave Desert at the Cohen Dry Lake Bed near Edwards Air Force Base, and we're about to test the authentically recreated Civil War era rockets.
Authentically recreated, but because of state laws, contemporarily fueled, thanks to the rocket expertise of their honorary MythBuster, Eric Gates.
When the countdown goes, these rocket motors are going to burn for 4.
Eric has already helped show that an ancient Chinese entrepreneur failed to get into orbit. And can you do a full 360 on a swing? Well, only if you've got someone like Eric there to help. Today, the cool of the van has become Civil War mission control.
I got something to show you guys. This right here is my Boxer rocket.
Adam's as proud as a new father. And like a new baby, the rocket first gets weighed.
All right, so 8.4 pounds for this thing.
And measured.
Diameter of the rocket is 3 inches.
This data is then fed into a computer simulation to see whether the rocket stands a chance of flying.
Okay, I've put a little set of fins on here to simulate the stick, and it looks like it's going to be stable. Let's try a motor.
Let's put a K550 in it to start out.
K550 it is.
The computer's fully primed.
Go.
Flight path, perfect. Range, 20,000 feet.
Remember, these are really rough simulations because your nozzle is not the same as what comes with the motor. So these could be greatly off, but hopefully they're going to be fairly accurate predictions.
Jamie's 20-pound rocket is historically more reliable than Adam's. So what does the accurate computer make of it?
See, right now it's doing about 500 feet and about 50 feet up, 60 feet up.
That's not quite the spinning that the Hale rocket was famed for. As launch looms, the rockets are ready to be fueled up with ammonium perchlorate motors. These modern motors are the most advanced in amateur rocketry and may be a little more powerful than Civil War black powder. But as they wrap them to ensure a snug fit in the rockets, Adam and Jamie are wondering if the main myth has historical authenticity, or is it just another tall tale?
Well, you know, now you can find references to the Civil War rocket all over the web, and they're saying that the rocket was about 12 feet long and it carried a 10-pound gunpowder warhead.
Well, the tale first showed up in 1958 in a Southern newspaper written by a Vienna correspondent signing only as C.R. Johnson.
Well, our researchers were unable to find C.R. Johnson or the article.
The myth may be nothing more than a mirage. But in this desert, it's T-minus 60 seconds for the Hale rocket.
We built this according to official plans and specs of the period, and if it worked then, it ought to work now.
What does our percentage maestro think?
70% chance the thing spins out, ends up about 200 feet away. 29% chance that it actually flies totally successfully and ends up 3,000 feet away. There's a 1% chance that it hits the ground and bounces right over to us.
And with those words of wisdom, it's the bit now with the countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
She's up and away.
Congratulations, Jake.
Wow, easily done, brother.
I was afraid that it was going to loop, but then it just got the spin. When the spin's what keeps it going straight, that was great.
Those revolutionary Hale tail fins did the trick and kept the rocket on a computer-defying perfect arc.
See it actually go and work, especially kind of having you on the edge of your seat as you're watching it go, and then it just kind of homes in and does its job. It was cool. It's cool design.
One down, one to go.
I got a boxer rocket, and I'm gonna fire it.
Complete with its rescue rope.
You're ready to rock and roll.
Is that it?
That's it.
Is that it?
That is it. Next, you push the button.
Light some rockets! In 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
We have liftoff.
You guys all clear?
That is cool!
It looks like they knew what they were doing back there in the 1800s.
They might have known what they were doing.
Yeah, look good.
Ain't that the truth? Another near-perfect flight. The rescue rope didn't fare so well, but at least the drowning sailors would have had a spectacle to behold. Adam and Jamie's next task is to build the long-range rocket of the myth. So first, they'll need to find out how far their non-mythical missiles flew.
I don't know, but I think that's one of the rockets, and judging by the size of the hole, I think it's mine. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can feel the end of it. Oh, I'm still not touching anything.
Oh, backhoe time.
Like a miner in the gold rush, Jamie starts digging. And the lighter boxer rocket? Well, 500 yards further on.
That's where it landed. I'm just terrible at judging distance from here, but I'd say it's at least 1.5 miles. I'm gonna pace it out. Calculating each of my steps is about 1 yard, and we'll see where I get to.
As Adam measures his flight path, Jamie has at last struck gold.
There she is. We got the end clearly exposed, and I think we should be able to tug it out with the come along pretty well. So
The heavy hail flew half as far and went over 5 feet into the ground. Soft to crash land in, tiring to measure.
1,317 yards. I'm tired.
The MythBusters have successfully launched rockets that haven't been seen for 80 years. But now, they've got to use what they learned to build the mythical 100-mile range Confederate rocket.
well, now we have a pretty good idea of what the standard kind of rocket that was used in the Civil War era is capable of. And I got to say, we've got our work cut out for us as far as this mythical rocket, because there's just not a whole lot of information about what it was.
Well, you know, we start with what we've got. I mean, they say it was a liquid-fueled rocket, so we should talk to somebody about what kind of technologies that would make a liquid-fueled rocket they had available at the time.
Liquid fuel? Well, that is what NASA uses. Of course, they had their teething problems too. But surely this technology is light years ahead of the Confederates. If only we had a rocket scientist.
Hello. How you doing, guys?
Nice to meet you.
So you're like a rocket scientist, right?
Yeah, exactly. I teach the rocket propulsion class at San Diego State, and I launch my own rockets.
Does being a rocket scientist help you pick up chicks?
Unfortunately, in the rocket science world, there's not that many women, and they're hunted to extinction.
Hunted to extinction. So, have you heard this myth that the Confederate Army actually built a liquid-fueled rocket that they fired from Virginia to Washington, D.C.?
It was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. People were doing all kinds of crazy things with steam engines and steamboats. I suppose it's possible.
What's not possible is to understand the ensuing discussion. But eventually they thrashed out the characteristics of a plausible Civil War-era two-stage rocket, powered by ethanol and liquid oxygen. And they unearthed some interesting new data.
This myth was supposedly made possible by Lord Kelvin, who was persuaded to make liquid oxygen 12 years before it is generally accepted that this first occurred.
Apparently, German physicist Ernst Mach contributed a small turbine and a gyroscopic stabilizer.
The rocket was launched from a hole in a riverbank that was lined with a tube made from naval cannons.
So here are the likely ingredients. Lord Kelvin's liquid oxygen made the rocket fuel burn. Ernst Mach's gyros gave it stability. A cannon provided the trajectory. And gun cotton made it explode out of the barrel. But what was the fuel? It could have been ethanol, made since ancient times by fermenting sugar. And it is used as a fuel. In today's environmentally conscious age, clean-burning ethanol is widely used as an additive to reduce gasoline emissions. Clean and green was not the aim of the Nazis when they invented their ethanol-fueled V-2 rockets. It was an oil shortage that drove their search for an alcohol-based rocket fuel. Nonetheless, the V-2 suggests that moonshine could have been used in the Confederate rocket. Next, it's Lord Kelvin's Big O. Liquid oxygen is needed as the fuel oxidizer. Without it, the ethanol will burn only gently. But when it's added, the fuel is fully oxidized and virtually explodes, causing a massive amount of thrust. And it's down to Grant to make it.
Well, I'm going to replicate Joseph Priestley's landmark experiment of the late 1700s, where he actually discovered oxygen using mercuric oxide, liquid mercury, a magnifying glass, and the sun.
Before making liquid oxygen, he first has to produce oxygen gas by focusing the heat of the sun onto mercuric oxide.
Now for the sun.
As it heats up, oxygen gas should bubble up into the test tube.
Hey, it's bubbling. Tiny, but still bubbling.
It's working, but he's going to be here a while longer yet. And when he's got enough, like Lord Kelvin, Grant's got to liquefy it. Meanwhile, because the mythical rocket was fired from a naval cannon, Carrie's gone to the fort.
So Jamie and Adam need to know what size the cannons were during the Civil War. So I've come here to Fort Point to do some measuring of cannons and find out.
These measurements are key to the MythBusters missile because there's no written record of the dimensions of the Confederate rocket.
All right, that's 11-foot length.
Adam and Jamie do know that it was fired from a cannon. So if Carrie measures the biggest cannons from the Civil War,
10 inches?
Then the MythBusters can build the biggest rocket possible. And they'll also have a launch tube they can replicate.
9 foot 2 inches.
It's another ingredient ready. Launch tube cannon, check. But the MythBusters have made a worrying discovery about Lord Kelvin.
Well, Adam, as the myth suggests, William Thompson, aka Lord Kelvin, did in fact live during the Civil War era, but he never claimed to have made liquid oxygen.
And we're supposed to believe someone whose name was Thompson but went around saying he was Lord Kelvin? That's Lord Kelvin to you?
Yeah.
But in 1852, he did observe that gas expanding in a vacuum decreased in temperature.
And that discovery, in turn, made it possible in 1877 for two French scientists, Pictet and Kite, I believe it was, to, in fact, achieve making liquid oxygen.
Yeah, but their success was only making the tiniest little vapor of liquid oxygen for just a few seconds. Industrial quantities were not remotely available until the 1890s and really until the 1900s.
Well, that explains why Grant's been struggling so. Using Civil War technology, he's been trying to put his oxygen gas under so much pressure that it turns into liquid.
That doesn't sound like 80 PSI.
But whatever he tries, just ain't working.
I got a problem with this here cylinder.
And that's because M5, like the Civil War times, is just too warm.
As it turns out, is actually a critical temperature above which you can't liquefy oxygen. It just simply won't happen. That temperature is minus 118.6 degrees Celsius. And unfortunately, in Civil War times, they didn't possess the technology to make anything nearly that cold.
And without the liquid oxygen, the Confederate rocket myth is looking busted. In the American Civil War, did the Confederate Army fire a long-range missile? The MythBusters are trying to find out. But Grant has just failed to make a vital rocket ingredient.
Well, you know, Grant's results make it pretty clear that they just did not have the ability to liquefy oxygen during the Civil War, which for us rules out the possibility of a liquid-fueled rocket that uses liquid fuel and a liquid oxidizer. I don't really know where we go from here.
Well, I do. And, you know, I've been doing some reading on this. I think the design we should use is called a hybrid. The fuel is wax. The oxidizer that we would use would be nitrous oxide. The design doesn't involve any really complicated moving parts or anything.
Number one, all those materials sound really safe to work with. And number two, the technology for all of them was available during the Civil War. That sounds like a perfect solution.
So it's Plan B, a hybrid Confederate rocket. Lord Kelvin's liquid oxygen replaced with liquid nitrous oxide, and the ethanol fuel by solid paraffin wax. It's the last chance for this myth. And it all depends on whether making liquid nitrous oxide using Civil War technology is even possible. So Grant gets another bite at the cherry, but this time, in an extreme case of please don't try this at home, the recipe has been censored.
The plan here is to heat up with that will actually produce a gas. We're going to run those through and at the other end should come out nitrous oxide.
So Grant adds some moo with some meow and starts heating. With the temperature creeping higher, the gas starts to bubble out. And Adam can't resist having a sniff.
That burns!
As Adam recovers, more gas bubbles through. But is it nitrous oxide? Or, to use its common name, laughing gas?
Nitrous oxide is more plausible as an oxidizer. Nitrous oxide is more... Okay. Nitrous oxide is more...
They've clearly made laughing gas. But what is he trying to say?
Nitrous oxide is more plausible as an oxidizer during the Civil War than oxygen because the pressure that you need is a lot less. You're looking at 50 atmospheres for nitrous oxide versus 400 for oxygen.
So nitrous oxide needs less pressure to be liquefied, and better still, it can be done at room temperature. A time-saving, shop-bought bottle later, and the Confederate hybrid rocket can really happen. But with one final alteration. Adam's Boxer rocket, like that of the Myth, was described as a two-stager. But further research proved otherwise.
And it turns out that it's a compound rocket, and indeed, it does not separate in the middle halfway through its ignition.
Given that the launch was so successful, they're going to make their mythical rocket a one-stager as well. The final design is set. The rocket will be the size of the biggest cannon carry found at the fort. At the top, there'll be a tank full of liquid nitrous oxide joined via a release valve to a tank filled with paraffin wax. Upon ignition, the burning gases will burst out through a graphite nozzle. So, first things first, Jamie goes 21st century shopping for some 19th century parts. He's looking for some metal piping that Civil War rocketeers might have found at their local suppliers. They're going to make their best effort and then test it in the shop before trying to make it fly in the desert.
I'm making the nitrous oxide tank for the rocket. We're using common steel plumbing pipe and fittings because that's easy and quick for us, and it's not too dissimilar from what they might have had at the time.
Meanwhile, Adam's cooking up the new fuel, the paraffin wax with carbon added for an even burn. After it solidifies, it should fit perfectly inside the rocket.
No leaking.
As the testing draws nearer, for safety, the team need a rocket-resistant bunker, also known as a shipping container.
Okay, we're in.
Perfect.
Perfect parking, but how bomb-proof is the bunker?
There we go. Woo! Uh-oh.
Not very.
A lot of daylight coming through the roof.
They've bought a holy rust bucket.
Who cut the budget on the bunker? Like, this seems like something you'd spend the extra cash on.
Yeah, when you got lives at stake.
Is that a wasp nest?
Yeah.
Sweet.
To top it off, there's wasps. But not for long.
Oh, shoot, that was cool. Set a bomb off in there, the whole roof might go up. So I gotta redo the roof. I still gotta get the ventilation in. I gotta get the cinder blocks in. I gotta sweep this thing out. I mean, thing's a mess. But hey, we're gonna have a bunker.
As Tori slowly makes it blast-proof, the MythBusters have dug up some more mythical musings.
What factoids do you have for us today, JB?
The myth specifically states that the launch took place near Richmond in March of 1865 and was witnessed by Jefferson Davis, who was the President of the Confederate States of America.
Now, there is an element of truth to this story. Jefferson Davis was, in fact, in Richmond around March of 1865.
Well, the problem is that there is actually a very good record of every day of Jefferson Davis's activity during the month of March, and there is no mention whatever of any kind of a two-stage rocket.
But maybe it was a secret launch.
Well, there's always that.
It's no secret that Tari's bunker is becoming ever more beefed up. And as launch nears, Adam's rocket fuel is all set.
All right, well, the wax is cured overnight. Let's see what it did. Oh, yeah!
It's worked perfectly.
Yeah, I'm proud.
And will it fit? Of course. But there's no rest for the wicked. Jamie gets on with sealing the rocket, but is slightly alarmed at how simple it all seems to be.
It doesn't make any sense that it should be this easy. This is some laughing gas and some plumbing fixtures. And if it actually goes someplace, that's kind of scary.
The MythBusters are not used to things being so painless. But let's not forget, it's not even passed its test yet.
Well, there she is. Tank's sealed. We have the ignition valve in place. We have the combustion chamber.
They're just waiting for the graphite nozzle. Graphite was the only thing available during the Civil War that could handle the crazy heat that the rocket's combustion generates.
Oh, that's a rocket. Oh, I'm totally psyched about that.
She's fully primed. With countdown just around the corner, it's time to take her to the bunker. The MythBusters are preparing to batten down the hatches in preparation for a big boom test. They've built their own Confederate rocket out of Civil War-era technologies. And because the desert is a long way to drive to find out the motor doesn't work, they're about to try it in a bunker in their shop. For safety, Adam secures the rocket so it will burn but not launch. And Jamie sets up some ventilation in case it's more of a smoke bomb. With everything ready, they're on to the final checks, starting with the quick release, the valve that will open the nitrous oxide to the fuel.
Okay, go ahead and pull. Cool.
Check. Next test is the ignition.
All right, Jamie, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1.
Smoking smells like, there we go.
Check.
Yeah, that took a second.
It's time to vacate the bunker because the Confederate rocket is going to get fired. They're going to fill the top half of the rocket with liquid nitrous oxide, ignite the wax, and then open the quick release valve.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
The nitrous oxide tank should be filling up, but no one is quite sure whether it's working.
I saw something drip.
It's dripping out of the quick release.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually a good sign.
Okay, well, let's kind of stand away from there, guys.
We're getting liquid nitrous oxide. Woo!
But 15 minutes later, and the tank is still filling up.
Yeah, this is where the danger zone happens. When nothing happens for a while, everyone's like, well, let's get closer. Let's get closer. Let's get closer. Boom! And everyone's dead.
Do you want to just go for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
They're just going to go for it. But for safety reasons, Jamie must first disconnect the nitrous oxide filler tank.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I knew I was going to do that.
Next time you should say that there might be a large kaboosh. Because, like, my heart's beating like 500 times a minute right now.
Those with a weak heart or a nervous disposition should look away now, because it's test time.
Okay, I'm in place, Adam.
Fire in the hole. So 3, 2, fans, go.
We clearly have ignition. But what the hell's going on in there? Not so much fire in the hole as fire in the whole shop. The MythBusters fire team have their work cut out. And what on earth must the neighbors think? There's more smoke than a year's worth of cigars. With the fire under control, the team decide to evacuate in case the gas is toxic.
Hey, that worked! I called 3, 2, fans, go. I pushed the igniter, Jamie pulled the fuel release, and I heard the thing catch. I heard it go, choo, go, boo, woo. I mean, just like exactly the way all the footage we've seen of liquid-fueled rockets going should sound. It put out a diabolical fireball outside the thing. It looks like it melted the ballistic glass. I mean, I can't wait to actually see the kind of damage it did in there.
As the smoke begins to clear, the damage is getting easier to see. Their hybrid rocket has turned M5 into a scene of apocalyptic proportions.
It's a testament to the size of the fireball and the heat that came out, what happened to my hovercraft.
If it did that to the hovercraft, what was going on inside the bunker? Well, the heat was so great that the cameras only filmed a giant fireball. Until, that is, they melted.
You know, I don't mind saying that I'm suffering the sin of pride here just a little bit. I mean, no one can dispute that through our ingenuity, we have achieved a hybrid rocket in 2 days with just a bunch of plumbing parts.
You mean we've achieved a hybrid rocket engine and system. We still have yet to put it in a sleek rocket-like exterior and build the cannon to fire it out of.
Exactly, and there's also the problem of tackling this mythical gyroscopic stabilizing system that the myth states. So I'll tackle the gyroscopic stabilizer. You want to take on the body and the nose cone?
Okay.
After some celebratory ego massaging, the down-to-earth work continues. For the final refinements, Adam's making the stabilizing system that gives the rocket a smooth and accurate flight path. But steam-powered, this ain't.
We looked at a lot of different ways to add gyroscopic stabilization to this thing, and we settled on the design that Hale used when he designed the Hale rocket, which was fins that affected the exhaust of the rocket only, but that exhaust being made to be rotational added a rotational stability to the rocket itself. So we've tried to do the same thing with ours on a much larger scale.
Ernst Mach and his gyro join Lord Kelvin and his liquid oxygen in the busted bin. Meanwhile, Jamie is making a more efficient string-pulled release valve to let the liquid nitrous oxide into the fuel tank. For the test, he was standing right next to the bunker. For the launch, he wants to be a bit further away.
It's important that I not be very close to the rocket when the nitrous oxide is dumped into the combustion chamber when it's lit, because there will be a lot of fire and I could get burned.
With the quick release ready and working, Jamie's routed round the shop and come up with a naval cannon launching tube.
Okay.
It's this pipe that the rocket will be propelled out of, courtesy of the Myth's Civil War gun cotton.
Carrie Elizabeth Byron?
Yes.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to make us some gun cotton.
Great. What is it?
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
some kind of cotton.
Yeah.
And it's probably got some nasty chemical added to it.
It's definitely going to shorten your lifespan, but we need a bunch of it. We need to figure out how to make it and get some over to us, okay?
Sounds like fun.
Oh, by the way, it's quite possibly explosive when you're done making it, so be careful. Keep that in mind.
You guys always give me the best jobs.
Gun cotton is what apparently gave the rocket its initial thrust. It's an important but dangerous part of this myth. So the recipe is a MythBusters secret.
Okay, we're adding a ½ ounce of to a ½ ounce of slowly.
When you add donkey to rooster, you get a violent
And,
reaction.
all that wonderful smoke cannot be good.
All right, let's get this started. 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 All right, let's get this star
So it's in with the cotton wool.
I don't know how much I trust respirators and masks at this point. That stuff looks just disgustingly fatal.
The rest of the fatal process is classified. But after a complicated afternoon, Carrie's gun cotton is all set for a test.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Not bad.
That makes a big difference.
The secret recipe works. The gun cotton is remarkably energetic. But could it propel a rocket out of a cannon?
All right, let's try it with the cannon.
Cool.
This is the crucial part. If the gun cotton is powerful, then they can scale this up to give the hybrid rocket its initial thrust.
You ready? Okay. Fire in the hole in 3, 2, 1.
Success. And with more of it, it could just be enough to kickstart the rocket out of its naval cannon launch tube. The fifth and final mythical ingredient is ready. The gun cotton check. That just leaves the last details. First, the nose cone.
I don't have a big enough piece of wood for the nose cone, so I'm going to lay that out of foam. I mean, we're not putting an actual warhead on this thing.
Even the MythBusters have to draw the line somewhere. A foam nose cone will have to do. And second, a paint job. Looking pretty in pink, the MythBusters rocket is finally ready. This puppy is going to get fired.
Oh, it's gotten heavier.
Yeah, I know.
The MythBusters' homemade Confederate rocket is about to shoot for the moon. Time to return to the desert, where things have started badly.
And we're stuck. But it's only the biggest vehicle in the fleet that's stuck. So we're using every other vehicle to get it out.
Jamie drove them into this mess, so he's got to dig them out.
What else do we have to stick under there? Anything?
But they're not having much luck. And believe me, this is not a fun place to break down.
We were hoping to work for the morning and then go back to the hotel, have a hacienda, work later in the day so we didn't take the heat of the sun. But no! Go ahead and pull. Pull, pull, come on, pull!
At 110 degrees, reinforcements are called. And with some tow truck talent, she's out. Freed at last, Jamie swings the truck around and gets stuck again.
Is there anything I could say that would make this more poignant? I don't think so.
Like rats in a sinking ship, the team abandon their lamentable lorry and take all their rocket equipment with them. After finally arriving on site, the race is on to get the rocket ready and fired. And to start, Adam finishes off the cannon-inspired gun barrel. To get the launch trajectory, Adam's attaching an A-frame to it. Meanwhile, Jamie's back to pulling strings.
I've run the pull cord, which opens the nitrous valve the entire distance because I want to feel what it feels like and have somebody watching on the other end to make sure that it actually worked.
We're ready for the test whenever you are.
Yo!
Hey!
That was it, right on the ball.
Hey, that worked!
With the quick release valve working from 500 feet, the team slide the rocket into the cannon.
Favor the far side.
Add the wax fuel, and then seal her up.
Perfect. Lovely.
Fabulous. You're the man. Stud. What?
And next up for these studs is the erection.
There you go, Eric. Watch your fingers.
She's nearly ready.
You like it? Yeah.
Jamie adds Carrie's gun cotton propellant to the base of the cannon. And that just leaves the fuel oxidizer, the liquid nitrous oxide. As the team make the final preparations, it seems this hybrid rocket has come a long way from the original myth. So is any part of this parable actually true?
They did have gun cotton in 1865, and they did have steel. They did have nitrous oxide.
Firing a rocket from a tube, totally plausible. Completely within the realm of possibility.
Building the rocket is one thing. All of the processes that go into actually launching it make it, in my opinion, improbable, but not impossible for them to have done in that era.
The Civil War rocket. Improbable, but not impossible. Sure, the MythBusters have made a few changes, but does it really stand a chance of flying the mythical 120 miles?
All right, here's the percentages. 60% chance that we get a lot of flame and a lot of fuss and bother, and the rocket doesn't leave the tube. 5% chance that it blows up in the tube from too much pressure or something like that. What have I got left, 35? Yeah, I'll give 20% chance of a successful launch and 15% chance of something I cannot even remotely predict.
Well, let's find out. Adam's going to press the button, then Jamie will yank open the quick release valve.
All right, here goes the big boom Civil War rocket. In 3, 2, 1, ignition. Something's happening. Here it goes. Woo!
I know, me too.
Yeah! I forgot to take a picture. Sir?
Good job, Jimmy.
Good job, everybody.
Wow.
Got out of the barrel, great in the air.
Our first hybrid rocket.
And didn't she do well? It took a while for the nitrous oxide to mix with the fuel, but then she was off.
Nice work. Should we go find our rocket?
Yeah.
All right. Is it that thing right that way?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so I'll pace it off while we walk out.
That was a rocket. There's no two ways about it. For being made out of some plumbing pipe and pipe caps, it's not half bad. That was heavy.
It weighed over 200 pounds. But how far did it go?
I got it! Here it is! There you go.
1, 2, 3.
Made it about 500 yards in 2 days. 2 days, baby. Let anybody else do that and get something airborne like this out of plumbing parts and a visit to your local hardware store.
A little hubris from the Heinemann.
And rightly so. After all, they just built a rocket out of plumbing parts in 48 hours. Want to see it again? The 200-pound Civil War rocket came straight out of the barrel, but had nowhere near the thrust of modern rockets. A success, but still 119 miles shorter than the myth.
So there you have it, Confederate rocket. Is it busted, plausible, or confirmed?
Totally busted. You know, we got airborne with stuff that they could have had, they could have put together, but nowhere near 120 miles.
I agree. They had access to all this technology, but putting it all together didn't happen for another, maybe even 100 years. And we made a good effort, and I'm so glad we got a launch, but this one's busted.
Busted.
On this episode of MythBusters, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall,
How many of me can you stand?
Adam sheds some light on the tale of a 2,000-year-old death ray.
Oh, look at that!
A story you can't turn your nose up at. The MythBusters get themselves skunked in the name of science.
I think it's working!
And Adam and Jamie have bulletproof materials in their sights. Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
And Jamie Heineman.
Quack, damn you.
I wouldn't say Jamie's an evil genius.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
When will the fun ever stop?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, a myth from the mists of antiquity.
This time we have what I believe is the oldest myth that MythBusters has tested. It comes from the 3rd century BC, right from the mind of the famous scientist Archimedes. And the idea is that Archimedes apparently utilized the sun's energy and mirrors to set fire to enemy ships during the Punic Wars.
Making a solar-powered weapon? Sounds right up the MythBusters alley.
Well, haven't people speculated that he got his warriors to use their shields to create the mirror?
Absolutely, that's one of the main theories, and it is the very first theory that we're going to test, and that is ancient bronze shields.
The plan: use sheets of bronze to focus the sun's rays on a Roman warship and see if they can set it on fire. Anyone spot the wrinkle in the plan? Roman warships, or triremes as they were known, no longer exist outside of Hollywood.
What is the actual thickness we're looking for? What's the thickness of a Roman trimarine?
Adam gives the build team its biggest challenge. Try and construct part of a trireme using only materials available to the Romans in 215 BC.
The key factor here is actually the density of the wood, its flammability. You know, we want to be able to make this death ray have a certain temperature. We want that temperature to be a temperature that would have set fire to this kind of boat.
While Tori and Carrie are left to grapple with that little problem, folklorist Heather Joseph Witham has been brushing up on her ancient history.
Archimedes was definitely a real person, and his many inventions and discoveries were documented by historians of his time period. However, the ancient death ray wasn't written about until 800 years after it was supposed to have occurred by Anthemius. Therefore, this story has been debated ever since.
Adam and Jamie have found some bronze.
What do you think? Think I can set fire to a boat with this?
Well, if we get enough of them, yeah. It's pretty bright. I can feel the heat on my face from it. Ow, hurts my eyes. You like doing this, don't you?
I'm really enjoying it.
Unfortunately, the price tag's even more dazzling, so Adam might have to rethink the plan.
So, Tori, this is actual bronze. This is the most ancient material we're testing, and Archimedes definitely would have had access to this.
He decides to test a range of materials to see how they reflect both visible light and heat.
How many of me can you stand?
Armed with a light meter and a laser thermometer, the guys turn the spotlight on bronze, a bronze-colored plastic called mylar, aluminum, and an ordinary household mirror.
So it's reading 111. It's reflecting twice as much visible light, but like 30% less infrared. Right. I have no idea what that means, but it's fascinating. Archimedes was actually onto something. I mean, the bronze and the aluminum gave us the highest reflectivity of infrared light. But we still don't know whether infrared or visible light is more important at this distance, so I think we need to move this experiment to a bigger scale. I think you need to go outside and start running some tests.
I think that's a really good idea.
How's the Roman trireme coming along? Slowly.
I've been geeking out and reading too many books and totally forgetting about the experiment and just trying to actually make a Roman trireme, so I will go back. That'll be much easier.
They don't have to build an entire vessel, just a section of the hull.
We're ready to get our wood. This was where the siege took place. Greeks hanging out right here, trying to keep Sicily, and these Roman battleships trying to come in and take it.
What was that about geeking out, Carrie?
We're building a Roman tree rim.
Okay.
I was wondering where you keep your wood from 200 BC.
Triremes were made from a type of European pine. Wouldn't you know it, these guys are fresh out.
Let me show you what we normally recommend for triremes.
The nearest match is spruce. Not perfect, but short of going to Italy, it'll have to do.
That doesn't seem too safe.
Somewhat frightening. People didn't like driving behind me, I'll tell you that.
At the same time, the Trireme team work on their best Adam and Jamie impressions.
We just need a piece of wood. We don't actually need to build this.
Well, Jamie, I don't know. I mean, you know, you gotta be accurate.
I think it's more accurate if we just use a piece of the correct wood. Yeah.
I'm gonna need to do 4 down low and 4 behind.
Tori goes off to help Adam, who's still trying to work out which material he should use for the death ray.
So we're gonna take a reading with the Mylar, and then you're gonna switch to the Plex, and we'll take a reading with that, and then you'll switch to the mirror, and then we're done.
Looks like he's lining up a class photo, but this class is failing one basic test, aiming their mirrors at the target.
Gather them in, come on.
Makes you wonder how 300 Greek soldiers with heavy shields managed it.
We're busting the myth that 8 people can coordinate the simplest of movements.
91.
What? Who's that?
One thing is certain.
Bronze over just a couple of feet is more efficient at transmitting thermal energy, but over 30 feet, glass is far more efficient because it's a much more focused beam. And the bronze is just as polished as you can make it, it's still somewhat diffuse.
But Adam, the ancient Greeks didn't have flawless glass mirrors, did they?
I kind of got it wrong, actually. They had access to making very polished mirrors by coating their bronze with silver and mercury and getting highly polished mirrors. So we're actually going with something very close to technology that was available to them. Jamie, you're not on the target.
Jamie thinks that, on reflection, his fellow Mythbuster is on the right track.
I think it's looking surprisingly good, actually. Even with a small test like this, we saw a significant increase in temperature right away. And we're going to be going dramatically up in numbers with the mirrors that we use on the real thing. I don't see any problem here. I think we're going to set something on fire. I'm looking forward to this because, you know, this is yet another common object, an everyday household object that's put to some kind of really destructive use, which is sort of fun somehow.
Gotta worry about that guy.
Good times.
Later, we'll see if Adam can turn a bunch of mirrors into a death ray. Once again, the Mythbusters have become Whiffbusters. First, they had to get the stench of decomposing pig out of a Corvette. Now, Adam and Jamie want to find out, how do you remove the fetid funk of a skunk?
So back during the Great Depression, when you were growing up on a farm in Indiana, did you ever get sprayed by a skunk?
Well, actually I was, but it was just a little bit, and so it almost doesn't count. I did, however, experience close up what it was like handling a pet that had been sprayed thoroughly by a skunk, and I tell you, it'll make you lose your lunch.
The plan is simple and extremely smelly. Adam and Jamie will find a skunk, get it to hose them with its caustic cologne, then try to get rid of the smell using a bunch of time-honored home remedies, including tomato juice, beer, and feminine hygiene products. They need to build a decontamination shower and a pool for the runoff.
I'm afraid of getting sprayed and, you know, vomiting right in our cleaning pool, and then, you know, I don't know what to do after that.
These guys have created special effects for dozens of movies and TV commercials. So building a shower cubicle at a black plastic pool is a no-brainer.
I can see right through that.
Although they haven't given much thought to privacy. And it's even easier when part of the rig already exists.
This is actually our bubbling rig from the Titanic myth. So nothing goes unused at MythBusters.
Look at that, pretty as a picture. Your very own decontamination chamber. So you want to hand me the hose over the top?
Water coming on.
Oh, that's great! Look at that!
You gonna install one in your home?
I don't need to, I just bring this one home. So we got a table full of home remedies for skunk smell right here.
And some professional ones.
Yeah, well, we got the tomato paste, we got your hydrogen peroxide baking soda vinegar mixture, we've got your feminine hygiene products, dish soap, beer.
Are we drinking the beer or are we cleaning with it?
Well, if we get clean with it, we'll have one later. It's one of those things I'm not looking forward to.
Yeah, there's no excuse for getting out of this one, is there? It's not dangerous.
Nope.
As far as I'm aware, it's just unpleasant.
In fact, that reminds me, we need a bucket in case, my ham sandwich comes back up.
Unpleasantness gets too much.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm gonna get a bucket.
Skunks, huh?
I'm not looking forward to this.
All we need is a skunk. Enter the guys from Critter Control. Jeff wrangles nuisance wildlife for a living, and skunks are high on the list. Amazingly, he has never been sprayed.
But I mean, it's an occupational hazard, so you must know some of the many old wives' tales about how to get rid of the smell of a skunk.
Well, yeah, there's one with the hydrogen peroxide and baking soda and liquid dish soap. That's probably pretty good for pets.
Now, the most famous one that we've all heard all our lives is, of course, tomato juice. Can you tell us about that?
Well, if you like red dogs, you know.
Until I'm wearing clothes that were bought by the production, I'm gonna stand over here.
That cage will stay somewhere dark and quiet while everyone prepares to do battle with the putrid smell.
Does he look happy?
The crew's taking no chances. It's wall-to-wall protective suits and nose plugs.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Our stars, however, are going for a more relaxed, outdoorsy feel.
For some reason I realize that we're going to get sprayed by a skunk somewhere in the very near future. But what I'm thinking about more is, wow, I'm just about to have like gallons of tomato sauce poured all over me.
Is that appealing?
No, not at all.
Adam, if that's what's worrying you, you obviously never had a dose of ode to skunk.
They used to live behind my house where I grew up, and I definitely smelled them a couple times this summer and saw them all the time, but I've never actually been sprayed.
Skunk musk is secreted in 2 grape-sized glands at the base of the tail and can be aimed with deadly accuracy over several feet. The noxious liquid is made up of a rancid recipe of chemicals called thiols. Thiols are the compounds that cause decomposing flesh and feces to smell bad. Thiols are activated by water molecules, so trying to wash out the skunk smell only results in more skunk smell.
It's the kind of thing that you really have to experience to understand the problem.
My vote is going to go for the home remedy of hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and dish soap. I think that probably has the highest chance of actually neutralizing the smell on a chemical level and cleaning it off my body.
I'm also curious about the commercial stench remover, skunk remover, because, it's guaranteed. And so it ought to work.
Okay, it's time for our guest star to kick up a stink.
What's the typical trajectory? They lift their tail and then it kind of, as it come up?
Tail. Yeah, I mean, they'll aim.
They'll aim.
And you'll tell when they're being threatened.
Yeah.
They'll start pouncing with their front feet. That's a warning.
Hey, I haven't asked this before, but does their scent burn when it hits your skin?
No.
Okay, good.
Oh, God.
Now, come on, you gotta stay near his, business end.
You'd think it wouldn't be too difficult, getting a skunk to fire off a couple of rounds. Jamie and Adam are primed for a point-blank blast of malodorous musk. But this skunk is remaining calm, cool, and collected.
Have you ever had a skunk spray in a cage? Is there something that,
What you want to do is probably get your hand moving behind.
in front of his face?
Well, behind, yeah, so you can see it.
Watch out, everyone, I've got a loaded skunk. This is how you hypnotize a skunk.
Come on, bud.
Come on, left lie, bud.
Jimmy, I think you should start singing.
You know, they say never work with children or animals.
These skunks hate the sounds of industry.
The MythBusters are trying everything.
Hammers, drills, drives them crazy.
But there's not even a single squalid squirt.
Do we have another skunk?
We ended up with one of those friendly skunks.
We had a bit of a letdown, you know. We got ourselves all psyched to get skunked.
We managed to find Buddha reincarnated as a skunk. It was like we couldn't do anything to get him to go.
Nothing happened. What are you gonna do? You know, we couldn't hurt or even seriously harass the poor thing.
Hey. Well, it doesn't work. Can we go now?
The reluctant skunk actually foiled our attempts to get sprayed the other day. What's on the agenda now? What do we do?
Well, we've got 2 more skunks coming, and, you know, one can only assume that sooner or later we're gonna get one that works. And just in case that doesn't work, we have a backup, which is odeur de skunk. It's synthetic skunk.
But it's the same stuff as the skunk scent?
It's chemically identical. Smells like it to me from here.
Oh, man. I might lose my lunch today. So there's just no way we're escaping getting sprayed.
Nope. We're gonna stink, no matter what.
All in the name of science.
Adam and Jamie have a table full of products that are supposed to bust the stink of skunk. But they need a skunk with more spunk. The Critter Control man returns.
Hey, you got a couple of stinkers for us?
Well,
today?
I got one. Yes.
You got one?
It's a female.
All right.
I think it's smaller.
Ready?
The boys go into their skunk-scaring routine. But once again, unbelievably, they come up smelling of roses.
Well, Jamie, once again, we've proved something radical on MythBusters, that skunks apparently don't spray and you can't turn them off.
It's possible that this little girl's out of ammo. A skunk's scent glands hold about a tablespoon of musk. When the tank's empty, it can take up to 10 days to produce more. Time to sample the synthetic smell. Distilled disgust. Vials of vile stench.
And it's not even out yet.
These are actually sealed glass little things, huh?
I believe. Yeah, I believe they are.
Well,
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, which is not that not that ready.
Christine won our competition to become a myth turn. Right now, she's probably wishing she hadn't.
oh yeah, there's a big wet spot right there.
Oh, well, rub it in, of course. Man, that is the stuff.
Maybe this might inspire our shy skunk to join in.
What do you think, girl? Does it smell familiar, huh?
Yeah, don't know what to make of this, do you? Just like, these guys are ugly, but they smell great.
But now, there's another problem. This bad smell isn't hanging around.
It's wearing off really fast. I mean, either that or I'm getting used to it, which is really disturbing.
Turns out the substitute's no substitute for the real thing. Sorry, guys, you'll have to find a skunk.
You know, I'm sorry to see this little guy go. I really kind of got attached to him.
Don't worry, guys. Skunk number 3 is on its way. The MythBusters are trying to solve an ancient riddle. Did the scientist Archimedes destroy a Roman fleet using only mirrors? While Adam's working on the death ray, the target's taking shape.
This has been a crazy experience trying to build this, and I can't imagine people back then with the tools they had building these sort of ships. I mean, it's amazing to me. So Archimedes coming up with something so brilliant. I mean, he came up with so many weapons. This has got to be true.
Tori's not so sure.
They better rent a flamethrower, because I don't think those mirrors are gonna work.
Jamie's got a flamethrower in his office.
The vessel now has to be caulked or made watertight. And they're doing it the same way the ancient Romans did. First, hemp fiber is wedged between the planks.
This is Jamie after traveling around the world on his sailboat.
Freaks.
I'm gonna be sick. I'm done with this.
Then just add tar. And finally,
you cover the raw wood with the beeswax to preserve it from the seawater.
Hemp, tar, and wax. It's almost as if the Roman fleet chose the most flammable materials they could find.
That's gonna be cool.
And it's away, Rio, away, Rio.
Now, it just so happens that MythBusters safety officer, Jim Rockwell, is a bit of an old salt. He loves a sea shanty.
Goodbye to Sally and goodbye to Sue, away, Rio.
And if things go according to plan, he might have to learn a couple of verses of Smoke on the Water.
There's not much on a boat that doesn't burn. In fact, fire is one of the biggest hazards at sea. And when you mix a light wood like pine or fir with wax and pitch and loosed up pieces of rope, unspun yarns of rope, it's just a tinderbox floating around.
So the trireme section is shipshape. Adam's chosen the type of mirrors he wants for his death ray. Now he has to work out how many he'll need and how best to arrange them to harness the sun's boat-burning potential.
All right, this right here represents a 1/12 scale model of the Archimedes death ray experiment we're going to actually do for real. Here's our miniature boat, and here's 13 Jamies focusing the sun's energy on a target. So we'll be able to aim all these guys up. So there are three methods that Archimedes could have used to actually focus sunlight and set fire to his enemies. The first and the simplest one is actually handing a mirror to every one of X number of soldiers on the shore. The problem with that is it takes a lot of soldiers to get a focused beam, to get something strong enough, and as we saw in our test with even 8 people, it's really hard to coordinate even that small number to focus their mirrors all at the same point. Gather them in, come on, hold it there, come on people, what's going on here? Focus, attention deficit disorder. The second method is to have all the soldiers who are holding these mirrors actually point their mirrors at a secondary mirror, which then focuses on the source. The problem with this is, unless that mirror is curved, it sends out a scattering of beams, and you can see that up on the wall up here. There. You can see that it's not a focused beam, it's an array just like these guys. So that method's pretty much out.
Adam builds a miniature rig.
Did you know that Archimedes built the first disco ball?
And the result is quite illuminating.
The third approach, and the one we think that Archimedes was probably most likely to have stumbled upon, is holding all of the mirrors inside a common structure with a common focal point. Although this arrangement, which is called a Fresnel arrangement, wasn't invented for another 1,000 years, its concept would have been very clear to Archimedes. And that is that as each mirror gets farther away from center, its angle is increased, so it's still aiming at a common point. And in this way, you're actually able to get all of these mirrors, 61 of them, focused at one spot, and we're looking actually to make a whole bunch more mirrors than this. So I think this is the most likely arrangement we're going to go with.
They tap solar power in a similar way. At the Solar 2 project in California's Mojave Desert, almost 2,000 giant mirrors reflect sunlight onto a central tower containing molten salt. The superheated salt is then used to boil water, and the steam powers a generator. The result? Enough electricity to power 10,000 homes. Now, Adam knows the sun produces 100 watts of energy per square foot, so 300 mirrors should produce 30 kilowatts per square foot, and that's hot, about 600 degrees.
How many mirrors have we got so far?
Oh, about 250.
Those mirrors will be screwed to a frame measuring more than 400 square feet.
This is actually my depth gauge, so I can focus the mirror array from behind it. All the mirrors have a screw adjusting their angle, and this depth gauge tells me how far a given screw should be out for a given row.
The setup is big, and time is short.
I need to start drawing these circles because I need to drill 300 holes.
Right. It's not like I'm sitting over here, goofing off. I'm just trying to get this thing right. I want to get this thing as tight as it possibly can. But I understand we only have, another day and a half to finish this. So.
Oh no, we have 4 hours to finish this. We have tomorrow to install it.
So begins a Fresnel lens frenzy.
They've got paper on them so that we don't blind ourselves when we're trying to focus it, or burn down somebody's house or something like that.
Adam, this looks like a small one, but a fun one.
Oh, lots of fun. There's tons of myths out there about what is bulletproof and what isn't, and we're going to set out to test as many of them as we can.
What do we got? We got playing cards.
Books.
Zippo lighters.
It's off to the Chabot Gun Club to test this myth. The setup is simple. In place of a human body, one slab of ballistics gel, and a selection of mythical bullet-stopping items. Target number 1, a book, hardcover naturally. And the weapon of choice, a .22 caliber rifle.
Dead center. Well, pull it out. Let's see if it went through.
It did not.
It did not. So somewhere, oh, look at what it did. Punch the paper.
Yeah.
Where's your round?
There it is.
There's your round. It's probably actually about 400 pages it made it through. So shall we try a .357 Magnum, see if it makes it all the way through? Did I even hit it?
Over the top.
Over the top. Well, that's pretty lame.
Another round.
This test reveals Adam would struggle to hit the side of a barn from the inside.
Oh, I think it's your turn, sir. I can't seem to hit that damn thing.
Okay. Well, let's see what it did.
All right. Oh, went all the way through.
Okay,
right.
so
a book won't stop at .357 Magnum, but I've never considered a book to be really body armor anyway.
Our next target, a deck of cards. The Joker gets another chance with the .22.
We're going hot, eyes and ears.
good shot, Adam.
Thank you, Uncle Jamie.
And it went through it.
It did. It went all the way through it.
But not through the ballistics gel. You can see it.
Yeah, no, it made it about 6 inches into the ballistics gel. Still, if you had one of these in your pocket, it wouldn't do you any good at all. I think it's time to try the Zippo.
Okay.
Are you ready, Ace?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Looks like you hit it pretty good.
Books, cards, lighters. None will stop a bullet. Now, Adam and Jamie want to put another myth in the line of fire. And this one's a little closer to home. Every time the MythBusters have made something go bang, they've done so from behind the safety of a high-impact resistant plastic screen. But how safe were they? Were the MythBusters living their own myth?
There we go. All right, ready. Yeah, well, last season, Jamie, we protected ourselves from a whole bunch of our experiments using this 1/4-inch polycarbonate, which you told us all was actually bulletproof, and it's not.
I don't recall it that way. You know, that was 1/4-inch polycarbonate, and I never said that 1/4-inch was bulletproof.
Oh, I believe that the very next cut in this segment is you saying bulletproof from last season.
It'll stop a bullet, it'll stop all sorts of shrapnel, and I just love this stuff. Well, not exactly. It'll stop a bullet.
Well, what were you thinking? It can't stop a bullet, so it's not bulletproof.
That plastic is a bulletproof plastic when it's used in appropriate thicknesses and arrangements.
Anyway, we've got a sheet up there of what we had in our blast chamber, and we're going to fire some bullets at it and see how bulletproof it actually is.
So our first shot is going to be at the 1/4-inch polycarbonate.
Yep.
And we'll see what it does. You know, it most likely, my guess is it'll shatter.
Well, and that's why I think you should take the first shot, farm boy, and show us how bulletproof it actually is. So.
All right.
Have at it.
To test the stopping power of their blast screen, they'll use the 22.
Did you miss it?
It looks like it.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, the bullet went right through.
It's worth remembering the guys aren't actually being shot at in their experiments, but it's got them wondering what they should be behind if they ever are.
Not even remotely bulletproof.
Okay, well, let's try the real thing.
Let's do the real thing.
This stuff is rated bullet resistant. Again, they're using the 22.
Okay, I'm firing.
Wow.
It's a little high.
All of a sudden he's like, yeah, it's a little high. Yeah, that definitely stopped it.
The bullet hasn't even penetrated halfway. Once again, they pull out the .357 Magnum.
Well, that looks almost like a bullseye.
Wow. Look, it's like completely encased in the plastic. Oh, that is really cool. So the .357 Magnum didn't penetrate the bulletproof glass either.
Clearly, this calls for something special.
This is the .44 Magnum, right?
This is the .44 Magnum, first cousin to the Dirty Harry gun.
So this is the most powerful handgun in the world, is that
At
right?
the time that movie was made, yes.
The fabled .44 Magnum, Dirty Harry's weapon of choice.
Take a breath, relax.
But again, that tough little box has stopped the bullet.
It did about the same as the .357. It's a bigger hole, but it didn't go any deeper, I don't think.
Right, but it means it's spread out more energy right there in the middle. God, that's fantastic.
It's becoming a source of considerable frustration.
So we gotta stop pussyfooting around here. What do you got that'll make it through that thing?
What they've got is the Springfield 30-06, the oldest caliber rifle on the grounds, and the MythBusters' last chance to see if bulletproof really means bulletproof.
That went right through it.
Wow, look at that. Went right through that side and right through that side.
It didn't even make the thing jump. Wow, you know, this stuff is pretty impressive what it did with the handguns. It's exactly what they rated it for. You know, it's not made for a high-powered rifle.
Yeah, well, and we were using the highest powered thing they had on site today. Well, we lined them up, we knocked them down, and we fired some big guns. What turned out to be bulletproof or not? Were playing cards bulletproof?
Nope.
Were books or Bibles?
No.
A Zippo lighter?
No.
And last year's blast chamber?
No.
So polycarbonate itself is not inherently bulletproof. It has to be laminated in a whole bunch of sheets, specially, and be really thick, right?
Well, polycarbonate itself is not used as a bulletproof plastic. It's got to be laminated and specially put together as a bulletproof product, and it's actually just bullet resistant.
So it depends on the circumstances whether it's going to resist a right bullet at the right time.
Right.
And all these other household objects and things that are supposed to stop bullets and famous stories about them stopping bullets, wrong, wrong, wrongity wrong.
Rollity wrong?
Wrongity wrong.
You said rollity wrong.
I did not.
The challenge sounded simple. Get sprayed by a skunk and test a batch of home remedies for removing the smell. Trouble is, the MythBusters just can't get sprayed.
What we want is a little bit of this.
This skunk's from a different supplier.
Do you have some advice about the best way to bounce off a skunk? I mean, we think we've tried everything.
I'll tell you, I have not found it difficult. All you got to do is expose that thing. Right now, it's covered, and when you take that off, it's going to feel threatened.
So you think we're going to get sprayed?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be shocked if you didn't.
Well, Regan, prepare to be shocked.
That is a really good bark.
Maybe it's just the wrong season for skunk spray.
I've never seen it happen this
It's
way.
incredible. I
It
mean,
is.
this is third time.
There's only one option left. Let the skunk out of its cage and see if it will spray when cornered in a confined space.
Thanks for putting it in the women's bathroom.
Hey, oh my God, it's a guy, look out! Woo! Come on, trying to loosen him up. Oh, he squirted. Yeah, he definitely squirted.
Yeah, I can
You smell it?
Bad.
And finally,
Squirted my shoe. The only thing I didn't want him to squirt, he squirted. Come on.
never seen anyone so happy to be skunked.
Finally, we smell foul. I'm totally psyched. Oh, Skunk, get away.
At last, a chance to test our skunk smell remedies. Remedy number 1, an old-time favorite, tomato juice.
Jamie, marinade. Wow, this is like performance art.
Now, not only do they stink, they're pink.
For everybody out there that thinks we have a great job, think again.
Mythbuster builder Scotty has volunteered to be the nose that knows.
You smell like a Bloody Mary. Woo! No, that's not skunk.
You know, I can't really tell for sure. I mean, Scotty didn't smell anything on us, and we got sprayed, so, you know, it seems like it must have done something.
Yeah.
The problem is, for this experiment to work, Adam and Jamie have to be re-skunked after each test. But this little critter isn't giving up any more juice. Maybe the sight of Adam and Jamie in their underwear sent it into shock.
Oh, the cage never seemed so good.
So it's goodbye to Regan and his skunk, and hello, Plan B.
It's so hard to get the skunk to spray. I mean, we feel relatively fine now, but the bathroom where we had the skunk, it reeks. So I think we ought to finish the test in here, use some of our substances in here, and see what we can clean up.
Beer.
Will beer de-skunk, or will it be debunked?
What are you doing? You're spraying it all over the floor. That's going to help. You start at the top and you work down.
It's hard being Jamie sometimes.
Humans are very sensitive to thiols, the chemicals in skunk spray. We can detect them in minute quantities, parts per billion. In fact, a sulfur thiol is added to odorless natural gas, just so we can detect leaks.
It smells like the men's room in a dive bar.
Yeah, but like a dive bar frequented by skunks?
Got that skunky beer smell.
It's skunky though still?
It's slightly skunky.
The beer hasn't helped.
The beer covers it up a little bit. Like I said, it smells like the boys' room.
All right, so beer, busted.
Okay, that's tomato juice and beer down.
All right, time for feminine hygiene products.
How's that work?
I think you just twist it, probably.
So what's in these things?
It's supposed to be vinegar and water. Yeah, it tastes like vinegar and water.
Talk about a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah, I just took a taste test. All right.
Scotty, you're on.
Well, it didn't get out the beer smell.
Just tell us if there's a little skunk on the wind. Yeah?
Yeah.
Still a little skunky. So, feminine hygiene products, douche, busted also.
Not so fresh.
It seems those thiols are still working their magic. We're down to our second to last test.
Okay, it's 2 ounces.
Hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and just a squirt of dishwashing liquid.
Better, worse?
Better.
Goldilocks? Really?
Yes.
A lot better.
A lot better. It smells very clean.
Home remedy might have worked.
Yeah.
When the peroxide, baking soda, and soap mix, they release a storm of oxygen molecules. Those molecules bond with the thiols in the skunk spray and change their chemical makeup, neutralizing their smell in the process. In fact, it's worked so well that the bathroom has to be re-skunked for the final test. Adam uses up the last of the synthetic skunk stink.
All right, so what is this stuff?
Commercial skunk remover.
Really?
Yeah.
It's made for this purpose. What does it smell like? It smells fruity. It smells orangey. Makes me kind of thirsty. Let's go for it. It reeks in here.
It's pretty good. Slight bit of skunk.
How did it compare to the home remedy of the last test?
I think the home remedy worked better.
The home remedy worked better than the commercial skunk remover.
I think so.
I think we've created another myth, though, here, Jamie.
That skunks won't spray MythBusters?
Exactly. I'm ready to walk through the woods with impunity now. Skunks, look out! Turn your wheels this way. I want it angled slightly.
It's D-Day for the death ray. Luckily, it's not overcast.
Dude, you think it's gonna work?
Oh, absolutely not.
All right, let's get it floated.
The trireme's being launched on its maiden voyage. Adam and Tori have to work out a way to float their boat. And soon, there's drama on the high seas.
We built half a boat, and it's not floating level because it's only half a boat. So now we're trying to get weight into the back of this thing so we can get it upright and actually see something that we can burn. I can't believe we didn't think of this. I mean, there's an entire crew full of idiots here, and me included.
At the same time, Adam's death ray has arrived in sections, ready for assembly.
These screws that I'm putting in are actually the aiming screws for all 300 of our mirrors. And once we get them in, we have a formula for what their position is, in or out, depending on the row and their position on the mirror. And then we'll get some fire. So, we got the mirrors down, frame's almost done. We're gonna bring the forklift around, lift this puppy up and see if we can't put our sad little boat out of its misery.
Not so fast, Adam. Jamie's arrived on the scene, and he's not happy with the waterlogged warship.
Adam's job of securing the boat sucks. Now I've got to fix it, and I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but sort of a pain in the butt. The tide's coming in, we have no time, and this ain't a boat, it's sort of a pile of wood.
Jamie, you know, you're gonna put a lot of load on the center of the barrel.
Yeah, you had your chance. Let the guy that actually knows a thing or two about ropes and boats do his work and to the ocean.
If our Phoenicians couldn't build a sufficient boat, it's not my fault, all right?
No, you were the one that dumped the bag of sand.
I'm backing off.
All right.
Skipper Jamie goes to work with a little help from his first mate, Christine.
I have a job for you.
But she's a bit of a landlubber.
No, I need you to stick your hand all the way under there and grab that rope.
I'm working. Wait. Where's the... Oh!
Sorry about that, I couldn't help myself.
The trireme should now stay afloat long enough to test the death ray.
So, Jamie, some more old-timey stuff from the farm? You're gonna go fishing with a bow and arrow?
Well, not exactly. The myth says that Archimedes focused the mirror to hit the boat, a bow shot away from the walls of Syracuse.
Realistically, Jamie, we've made this entire thing, and all the math is to aim about 60 feet away, so if you can, just try and not shoot much farther than 60 feet, okay?
All right.
All right, let's see what it does.
Okay.
That was gone. 60 feet is the hot zone, the point at which the 300 reflected rays will converge.
60
50 feet, right there.
The mirror rig is exactly the kind of thing that Adam's good at. He really flew through this. It's a big, hard to build thing that he did in just like practically no time at all. I think it's actually quite brilliant.
Despite that, he doesn't think it'll work.
It's just so hard to imagine that something of this scale would actually set something on fire from 60 feet away. I just don't know. I'm actually really excited to see whether this works or not, but my guess is that it won't.
The trickiest part of this challenge is raising the rig.
The worst case scenario here is that the whole thing is just going to collapse somewhere in the middle of us trying to lift it. And if that happens, it's going to be like Humpty Dumpty, all the king's men can't put it back together again.
Stop! We got it, Jamie! Oh, look at that! I can't help noticing that it's not on fire. 300 mirrors, it should be on fire.
That's a pretty bright light you got going there, buddy.
The Romans wouldn't know what hit them. Oh, bright light. Sail away.
Jamie dons a fire suit.
There he goes.
And bravely wades in to take a temperature reading.
What's the temperature, Jamie?
It's about 150.
150?
Give it a minute. 200 degrees.
Now, the highest temperature we seem to be reading on the boat right now is about 200 degrees. That's just about 400 degrees shy of ignition temperature.
Even so, the wax is melting.
Oh, I see wax dripping off.
As a boost, the team holds up sheets of Mylar. The added rays bump up the temperature almost 100 degrees.
It's 280 degrees. 284, 287.
The tar begins to smolder, but still no flames. Something else is clear. For this to work, you'd want the enemy to stay very still in exactly the right spot.
Our death ray doesn't seem to be working. I'm standing right in it, and I'm not dead yet.
Despite Adam's best efforts, the beams just aren't concentrated enough. Instead of meeting at a single point, the 300 rays are scattered across the entire structure. The sun's energy is diffused.
I don't think we're gonna get anything better than this. I mean, even if we moved the whole mirror, which I'm not sure it would survive, and get into the sun, we're not gonna get instant ignition on this. I think we should call it quits and go for the flaming arrows.
Oh well, nice try, Adam. Now, that's about 2,000 years bad luck right there. Not sure you'd want these guys defending against the invading hordes.
This is harder than it looks.
Molotov cocktail, anyone? The waterlogged trireme just won't burn. Not even gasoline can provide that elusive spark.
It's busted. I mean, from a purely practical standpoint, this myth is 100% busted. If you have enough mirrors that make an effective death ray, the rig that they're mounted to is going to be so big, we saw, that you can't move it or aim it effectively.
Yeah, Archimedes was a really smart guy, and like a lot of us, he knew that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. This is not a simple solution.
No, I mean, you could only use it at a certain time of day when it's most effective. It's difficult to aim. What, are you going to ask your enemy to please show up around noon?
Or what if it's raining?
If I was a Roman, I'd want to show up on a rainy day. Now, this is definitely, I really wanted this one to work. I wanted to see some fire, but the question wasn't whether we could do it, it's whether Archimedes did it, and I think we showed that he definitely didn't.
On this episode of MythBusters,
Come on, stay up there.
it's a wind special. As the team sparks up an American classic. Did Ben Franklin really fly a kite in a storm and survive a bolt from the blue? Oh. Meanwhile, both Adam and Jamie are getting ready.
Weird. It's not bad.
To tastefully test some scientific facts about flatulence.
Roger that. We have flatus contained.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
Ants are all over my head, man.
And Jamie Heineman.
Gets me all worked up just looking at it.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
That was heavy.
Joining them, Grant Imahara.
Go get him, boy.
Tori Belleci.
Whoa.
And Carrie Byron.
That was crazy!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, a blast from the past as Carrie, Grant, and Tori test an American legend.
You got their little doll?
No, it's called an action figure, and it's Ben Franklin.
Is this the classic tale where Ben Franklin takes a kite out into a storm, flies it, it gets hit by lightning, and a key that he's tied to the end gets charged, and he discovers electricity?
Hey, I've heard that in every schoolroom I've ever been in. Because I've been in a lot.
Apparently, there's a little bit of controversy surrounding it. They think, well, did he actually fly the kite? Was he able to get something in the air in a storm? Could he have done it without getting killed?
What sounds really, really dangerous.
It could be very dangerous.
Or it could be a lot of fun.
Fun fact or fiction, Franklin's kite-flying bolt from the blue is a myth that took the U.S. by storm. But did this famous spark in the dark really happen?
So what we've got to do is start out with the kite and see if we could build a kite that will fly using period materials with Benjamin Franklin's specifications.
Definitely gonna have to do some small-scale testing on conductivity.
Yes, just to see if the string can actually get that charge all the way down to the key.
And then another problem I see is finding a storm, getting the kite in the storm, and having it hit by lightning.
Without killing all of us.
Yeah, that seems like it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Let's start with building the kites.
Where they can follow Franklin's recipe, because he wrote most of it down. The square frame was made of cedar, and the material was a silk handkerchief. On the top of the kite was a lightning rod, and at the end of the string, the key. And lastly, Franklin flew it out of a window so that he didn't get dangerously damp.
Hey, Grant, you want to make the little kite while I make the big kite?
Sure.
No one knows the precise size of Franklin's kite, but silk hankies of his time were either 10 by 10 inches or 3 foot square. So the team is first going to build several of each size to see which flies best.
Come on, stay up there. Stay up there.
With the kites coming together, the team leaps from preschool to postgrad in a quest for the best string.
The next part of the myth is we have to measure the resistance of the string that we're going to use for this. And we have here the high resistance meter. So I need a 1-inch sample of each type of string we're going to try.
They're calculating which of the 18th century twines is the best conductor.
0.48 nano Siemens.
Because that will have the highest chance of conducting the electrical strike from the kite to the key.
Now check this out. There's a difference in conductance between these two pieces of string. And in fact, the thicker one has much higher conductance.
So that's what they're going to use. And that means all that remains is the key.
If my keys were this big, I would never lose them.
Franklin never specified what sort of key he used, so Carrie's got a bunch to choose from.
So our researchers have found that this key belongs to the most common lock that you might find in Benjamin Franklin's days. So we're thinking this is the most likely candidate that we could use.
The key's been locked down. Now, with the traditional kite strung up with the authentic hemp twine, it's time to see which of the two sizes is the high flyer.
I think she should definitely run with it.
Okay.
Go, Carrie Byron. Run, Forrest! You're almost there!
Carrie's running like the wind, but for now, her big kite can't even get off the ground. Can Grant's tiny rival do any better?
Go.
Go. Go.
Stability appears to be an issue.
You don't say. Grant's kite is doing more spins than a washing machine. And Carrie's has the same problem. So Team Tiny ties on a rock for added stability. But then the kite turns psycho.
Hey, it's the death kite, the kite of punishment. Oh!
That made it all worthwhile.
Just gotta stretch it out a little.
While Tori massages his rocks from the rock, the others don't get any further.
I don't think I'm supposed to do that.
If they're hoping to get this myth up and running, they're going to need a second wind.
These kites are dangerous.
Meanwhile, a different wind is brewing for Adam and Jamie.
Facts about flatulence. What kind of facts are there about flatulence?
This is actually classic Mythbuster territory. We're going to investigate all of the things people have ever wanted to know about flatulence.
You mean like when the guy passed so much gas that he suffocated?
Yep. Or does lighting a match dissipate the smell of Chanel number 2? Then finally, there are foods that make you pass more gas than other foods, like beans.
The Mythbusters have ranked the top rank myths, and none get any bigger than death by flatus.
So, we got flattest to death. This is a myth about a large man living on a diet of beans and cabbage in a small, close room who apparently suffocated by inhaling the deadly cloud of gas that hung above him.
It's a myth from the bowels of the internet. But is this story toilet trash, or does it have a ring of truth? Can flatulence really be fatal?
You know, in order to get started with this, we have to physically determine the actual size of a flatus and what its constituent components are.
Well, that means we have to come up with some sort of device to actually catch a flatus, right?
Since the one place you normally see them is in the bathtub, I'm thinking of using a rig that uses water and a bathtub to actually capture them.
So before the boys can test the death by toxic flatulence myth, they first need to learn exactly what gases are found therein. So Adam's building a bath-based flatus catcher.
This would be the capture funnel of my flatus catcher.
If it does its job, they can then take the trapped air to a lab to be analyzed.
I don't know why you didn't just use a balloon, stuck it in your butt.
Adam's device should trap his trump in a tube as it bubbles up through water. Once trapped, the awful aroma needs to be extracted. And that's where the flatus containment vessel comes in.
So what I'm gonna do now is hook up my vacuum pump to this and pull a vacuum on this. Once I pull a vacuum, I'm gonna close it. Then this thing will be under vacuum. And when I hook it up to the flatus catcher, it's gonna capture the flatus and then I shut it off.
Never has such ingenuity been focused at flatulence.
Oh, hey! That caught it! That was great!
With Adam's trap tuned up and a bubble bath on standby, everything is ready for the main event.
My dignity and good television. They'll never meet.
At least not on this show. But when Adam gets in to give gas, there's a problem.
Oh, God, it's so cold. Oh, dude, that's wrong. For some reason, the cold water's making me pucker up.
The liquid chill is hindering his digestion. Try as he might, he just can't deliver the goods.
I wasted a really good one at like 6 o'clock this morning. It was like 2 seconds long, like a real kind of thing. Wish I had that now.
Did Ben Franklin fly a kite in a thunderstorm, get struck by lightning via a key, and survive? Not if the MythBusters kite flying team is anything to go by. They've struggled to get a Franklin-inspired kite off the ground, let alone do so in a thunderstorm. But Carrie has a plan B.
I'm making some changes in the kite design. I'm taking advantage of the vagueness of Franklin's article, and I'm changing from the square cedar that we had before to a more flexible doweling. I'm also going to change from a perfect square to a more diamond shape, which is traditionally what more you would think of a kite as looking like.
To get this myth airborne, Carrie's decided to slightly alter Franklin's kite design. She's changing his square shape to a diamond and making the frame of more modern cedar dowel. Meanwhile, the boys are focusing on Franklin's kite-flying shelter. And to start that, Tori's gone window shopping. Literally.
My feeling is wood, because that's what they would have had back in the old days.
To stay true to the myth, they need to try to fly Carrie's new kite out of a window. Because that's what Franklin says he did.
All right, I think I found my window.
And with his purchase in the bag,
we got 1 hour to rip this thing apart and put a new window in.
The race is on to build a room with a view.
Okay, the bathroom's done.
They're recycling a previous MythBusters experiment into Franklin's kite-flying HQ.
You know, I really think the Franklin family is going to love these new additions we made to their house.
With the preparations well underway,
job well done.
Nice! The team can soon put this myth to the test, and there's 3 key things to find out. 1, can a kite attract a charge and conduct it down 18th century string to a key? 2, can the key get charged so much that it will spark to the kite flyer's finger? And 3, can that spark be so great that the kite flyer flatlines? For test 1, can the string conduct a charge to the key? The team hits the beach. They've got their kite flying shelter and Carrie's latest kite. It's a new shape, but the silk and the twine are based on Franklin's original guidelines.
Here we are yet again trying to get a kite into the air. This is our biggest and our best kite.
1, 2, 3.
Hey! Yeah! We did it!
Now that the kite has got a second wind, the myth-busting can begin. And for this first test, the fact that there's not a thunderstorm in sight shouldn't be a problem.
Even on a dry day like today, we should be able to develop a static charge. And the reason is that the movement of the air, the wind, across the kite and the string should leave a net electrical charge.
With 500 feet of the good conducting string let out, they're maximizing their chance for success.
Do you want to get in the house and be all ready? You can be Ben Franklin. I'll bring it over to you.
Okay, everything's all ready. All right, hey, we're getting 3.8 kilovolts.
Wow.
4.
Look at that.
6 kilovolts.
We are building.
Test 1's a success. The key's a buzzing.
We're up to almost 10 kilovolts.
With a reading of 10,000 volts, the team moves on to test 2. Can Carrie get a shock off the key?
No sparks. Now that we've gotten it in the air and we've got the copper rod at the end,
Yep.
do you want to bring it down, wet it, and let it back up?
Yeah, I think we should.
To try to get a spark, the team wets the string because water should dramatically increase its conductivity.
Look how much more drag there is on the string this time. It's much heavier with all the water on it.
Despite the extra weight, the new kite is still flying high. So, how's the key?
The charge didn't seem to be building very quickly before, but it is now. Hold it steady. 16, 19, off the scale. You want to try the knuckle test?
Definitely. Nothing.
Okay.
The wet string has more than doubled the voltage, but it's still not enough to get a spark. For that, they're going to have to jolt this experiment up. Can flatulence be fatal? To test this smelly saga, the MythBusters must first learn what gases make up the average Trump.
The FCV!
So, Adams built a stink catcher.
Closing valve number 2.
The dress rehearsal was a breeze.
Roger that. We have Flatus contained.
But for the main event, he's had performance anxiety.
Yeah, you got one?
I think so. Oh, it's a little tiny one. No. Nothing.
Waiting for Adam to bubble up is rather unpleasant. So here's a reassuring announcement about taste.
This particular subject is, you know, it might offend some people if we're not careful.
Well, we have to be very tasteful. And, you know, I think we should start by doing this entire segment without ever once using the word.
Didn't you just do that?
No, they bleep that right out.
Oh, well, the technical term for it is flatus.
And that's where we should begin.
Okay, well, I've also printed out a whole list of euphemisms from the internet.
Voice of the toothless one?
Butt burps.
Trouser cough.
Colon cologne.
I think you'll be reverting to flatus almost every single time.
I think so.
That's just the kind of tasteful guy you are.
Okay.
Back at the bath, Adam's body has had time to adjust to the cold, and his numb bum starts bubbling.
Hey, we got one! We got a nice 13.5 milliliter Flatus. I think this is the first time anyone's ever tried this on television.
The second, third, and fourth times soon follow through. Then they're logged before the team draws straws to see who has to take them to the lab.
Yet another one of my very unique missions that Jamie and Adam have sent me on. I have 4 specimens of Flatus to bring into the UCSF mass spectrometry facility. They're going to test them and see exactly what's in them.
Lucky, lucky them.
Well, what we're going to do is take this sample, and we'll open up the stopcock at the top. We'll put this syringe in, pull a volume of air out of there, and then we're going to inject it on here. And they will be analyzed to tell what they are.
You know there'll be trouble when it all sounds so simple.
Oh, God!
A quick spray of not so much eau de cologne as eau de colon.
That can't be good for you.
Once injected into the machine, the ingredients of Adam's gastric gas will be broken up according to their mass.
So what are the main constituents of the sample we just took?
So what we're mainly seeing is 28 and 32, which would be nitrogen and oxygen, which of course is the main constituents of our air. There's a little bit of 40, which would be argon, which also is a normal constituent of air. We're seeing some methane and some carbon dioxide.
So it's not just hot air. There is odorless methane and carbon dioxide. And that's not all. Adam's air solute also contains hydrogen sulfide and methyl mercaptan, the smelly gases of Flatus. With the ingredients of Adam's wretched recipe established,
I hope this is the weirdest thing you have to do today.
the team is ready to see if flatulence can be fatal. Flatulence, like it or not, we all do it. But is it ever possible to pass so much gas in one night that it turns deadly? To test this tall tale, Adam and Jamie first need to build a suitably small bedroom. Then they need a test subject. Yes, the ever unfortunate Buster.
There we go.
And with the room sealed up, everything's ready for the gas. The analysis of Adam's airstrike showed that most Flatus gases are harmless, but some can be fatal in high doses. To find the mythical killer, they're going to test each noxious gas in turn, starting with carbon dioxide.
The reason we're going to start with CO2 is because of all the constituent gases that make up your flatus. It's the one we think it really has the highest potential to be the most deadly and come out in amounts large enough to actually be plausible.
Regular air does contain carbon dioxide, but there's so little of it, just 0.03%, that it's harmless. But at higher concentrations, it turns nasty.
At concentrations of about 2%, we have cerebral dilation, we have increased blood pressure, nausea, confusion, some minor side effects like that. At about 8%, we have nausea and vomiting. At about 10%, we have death within minutes.
And to see if they can get to the magic 10%, they're going to go for broke.
The largest flatus recorded in the research we have is 170 milliliters per hour. And given that the largest amount of CO2 in flatus in the study we have is 80%, that's 140 milliliters of flatus. This might be the meanest thing we've ever done to him.
Slow but deadly.
But how deadly will this record level of CO2 from flatus really be?
3, 2, 1. All right. That is 1 hour's worth of CO2 in flatus production.
Well, we're showing absolutely no change on the meter.
The meter's staying at 0.03%, nowhere near the 10% needed for fatality.
So I'm going to add another hour's worth of CO2 in flatus. That'll be 2 hours total, 280 milliliters of CO2.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Will another hour's worth of record-breaking flatus have any effect?
No difference.
Let's add 2 more hours. That's half the night. If we don't see any change in the reading, we'll add 4 more hours.
Okay.
We'll get to 8 hours, full 8 hours sleep.
With no change in the reading so far, they decided to pull out all the stops and add a whole night's worth of gas.
And that is 8 hours worth of flatus, of CO2 from flatus entered into Buster's little bedroom. What does the meter say?
Well, we're actually up to 0.06%.
The levels doubled, but it's still way too low to be deadly.
If you want to get to 10%, 2,600 hours, it's 110 days to reach the lethal limit of CO2 in a sealed room if all you're doing is passing gas. Look, breathing is going to cost much more CO2 production than flatus.
Ain't that the truth? The MythBusters saw how deadly exhaled CO2 could be when they tested the myth buried alive.
It's hot. That's the only thing that I don't like.
But if Jamie thinks he's done his time overdosing on carbon dioxide, well, then he's very much mistaken.
My math says it would only take 7 hours of producing CO2 with your exhalation to reach a deadly amount in here, and Jamie's going to go in and test it.
To see whether the man in the myth could have breathed himself to death, it's out with Buster and in with Jamie, who's going to get a little extra care.
How exactly are we going to be monitoring Jamie?
We're going to put a cardiac monitor on him, and we're going to use the pulse ox to register the oxygen saturation in his blood.
They're taking no chances, since Adam reckons it'll only take 7 hours to get to potentially fatal levels.
Dead man walking.
Being sealed up in a small room to go to sleep in may sound relaxing, but not when the carbon dioxide level is rising.
20 minutes, okay. Let's see here. Wow. The CO2 concentration is 0.14.
Already, breathing has produced twice as much CO2 as 8 hours worth of flatulence. But there's still less of the gas than Adam's math predicted.
My math was based on a worst case scenario of someone respirating heavily, deep breaths, and producing as much CO2 as has been recorded.
Right.
So in a room this size, exactly how long would it take for death by breathing to occur?
We're at 1.28% now. Wow, you've been in there for 4 hours. If you extrapolate that out, it takes 4 hours to get to 1.3%. I mean, we're talking somewhere around 36 hours to get to 10%.
36 hours, way too long to have killed the sleeping man in the myth.
CO2 production by respiration and suffocation from that is impossible overnight. And so when you figure that CO2 production as a result of flatus is minuscule in comparison, it's virtually impossible to die from suffocation, from CO2 poisoning by flatus.
So the mythical killer wasn't CO2. Neither breathing nor flatus can raise the level to a deadly amount in just one night. Could any other colon components be the culprit?
There's a lot of other gases that flatus is comprised of, and unless we can find one of those that could be potentially deadly within 8 hours, this myth is totally busted.
To find out, Adam hits the books to calculate whether any other gluteal gases are even theoretically possible. Like methane, deadly at 2%, but how long would that take?
441 days.
So methane's out the window. What about hydrogen sulfide?
That's 193,220 episodes of flatus, or 22 years of solid gas passing. That's a commitment.
They did the math for all gastric gases and found that death by flatus would take anything from 4 months to 22 years. This malodorous myth is busted. In the Ben Franklin myth, the team has shown that a key tied to a kite string can get charged up, but the famous spark has so far proved elusive.
Listen to me.
So they're going to up the ante.
Take me to your leader.
And Jamie's Van der Graaf generator should provide the necessary power. It's capable of generating a charge of 100,000 volts. And if this charge strikes the kite,
That is cool.
it may be powerful enough to travel down the string and then arc from the key to the finger.
Well, without going out into a rainstorm to fly our kite, which would be really dangerous, we're actually going to use the Van de Graaff generator to generate a high voltage, and that would simulate the charge separation that you would find high up in the atmosphere where the clouds are on a cloudy, very cloudy or rainy day.
It's the next best thing to a thunderstorm and should be much more powerful than their static charge beach test. The team is going to position Carrie's kite next to the generator, run 500 feet of traditional twine around the car park, and then wait to see if the charge will jump from the antique key at the end.
Do not use for electrical work or firefighting.
These are perfect.
This time, to maximize their chance of a spark, they're going with wet string straight away.
I'm wetting the string to replicate the rain and the gathering storm in which Benjamin Franklin would be flying his kite.
3, 2, 1. That's pretty funny.
Holy cow.
See, we got the Van de Graaff working right.
Oh yeah, it's working all right. Okay, I'm at 18 kilovolts at 1 foot.
The Van der Graaf is packing quite a punch, but what's happening with the key?
5 kilovolts, it's only been about 30 seconds.
The string is conducting! It's conducting!
After a few more minutes, the reading reaches 15,000 volts, so everyone's buzzing for the spark test.
Nothing.
They've had no luck so far.
Boring.
But all is not lost.
I'm just going to move the kite close to the Van de Graaff so that we can actually get it to discharge onto the kite.
If they can get a strike right onto the kite, they should boost their chances of getting an arc from the key. It's hardly a lightning bolt, but will it be enough?
It's very tiny, but...
Blink and you'll miss it, but there is a tiny spark which has a big repercussion. Electricity can be conducted down a kite string to a key and then jump to a finger. Test 2 passed. But for test 3, if the charge was 10,000 times stronger, could Franklin have survived?
Well, obviously we can't fly a kite out in a storm because it's completely dangerous.
Way too dangerous. Kids at home, do not try that.
So maybe we need a little more of a controlled circumstance?
How about the facility the electric company has? We used it in phone and a lightning storm.
Well, we're gonna have to find a subject to test this stuff on because I'm not gonna do it. And I know you guys aren't gonna do it.
Okay, so maybe we're gonna build a Ben Franklin.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to build a whole ballistics gel body, so maybe we can just do a torso, a couple hands, and a couple feet, and then have a resistor in the middle that would match the conductivity of the human body.
For the final part of the circuit, they're going to build a ballistics gel Ben Franklin to see whether he could survive the biggest jolt the electric company can throw at his kite. And it's down to Tori to build him. His head, hands, and feet will be made from that old MythBusters favorite.
Ballistics gel, I love it.
While his skeleton will be made from something a little more solid.
What I'm gonna use is some PVC pipe, you know, for legs, arms. This is gonna give me my structure to keep him standing up straight. It's also non-conductive because we don't wanna change the resistance of the body.
Tori's doing everything he can to ensure that his Franklin body double is as close to human as possible. And once Headcase Ben is all set, the team bolts for the Pacific Gas and Electric Test Facility to fly this fable once and for all.
Now that's a death ray.
People of Earth, submit to me.
In this Thunderdome, they can generate man-made lightning, pulsing with almost 1,000,000 volts. So the team is going to position the kite next to the power line and wait to strike lucky. Something which, outside this test facility, is very, very dangerous.
The real problem with flying your kite near a power line is that the kite doesn't have to touch the power line for an arc to occur. And it's a real hazard to anyone who's trying to do anything near a power line.
And never fly a kite with metal on it, or with metal twine. It's just not sensible, as the team is about to see.
My dastardly scheme, it's coming together.
With ballistics gel Franklin's heart monitor wired up, and the key within touching distance of his finger, Carrie's kite is hauled up to the power line to see if Franklin will live or fry.
We're gonna shock the crap out of Ben.
In Facts About Flatulence, it's time to test an all-time classic. We've all heard it. Beans, beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you produce flatus. Or do you? The MythBusters are going to lift the lid on this stinky story.
So Adam, you know, a lot of people may not realize that the gas contained in flatus can come from a couple of different sources.
It's true. The first type is actually pretty much like a butt burp. Just as swallowed air can be belched out of your mouth, it can also make its way all the way through your system and come out the other end. The other way is from the breakdown of food in your gut. There are bacteria, enzymes, and acids in there that when they break down your food during digestion, they create gas as a byproduct.
And of course, different types of food would create different quantities of gas, right?
That's what we're testing. And apparently, these bacteria go ballistic for beans.
To put this to the test, the team has spent 3 days recording every gas movement to try to establish their average rate of flatus output on a regular, run-of-the-mill diet. And the results are in.
You're going on average about 6, 6, 6. Jimmy's pretty consistent. I allocate myself to 6 gas passings per day.
But Adam's diary is a little more detailed.
7:31 a.m., nice loud brap, followed by 2 pops. 7:32 a.m., long trombone, 1 second long.
And so what exactly are we going to do with this information, this scientific information about brats and pops?
Look, you might have just a single clap, like a, you know, one of those. And then the next day, you might eat a whole bunch of beans, and you might only have one gas passing, but it might be a, you know, like a full-on kind of grandmother pop.
Fascinating. So once on the diets, they'll have a stab at recording frequency and volume to compare it to the baselines. On a regular diet, in a normal day, they know that Carrie passes gas 3 times, Jamie 6, and Adam an impressive 10. So, bring on the beans.
Refried beans, refried pinto, refried black beans.
There's a hill of beans, and they're all for Adam, because the others are going to be eating different, supposedly flatus-inducing diets. Jamie's going to be munching nothing but meat.
New York steak, that's 1 meal.
While Carrie is on the bubbles. Fizzy drinks are another alleged gas producer. And back at the shop, dinner is served.
I figure I'll start this experiment with a nice ribeye steak. I figure I'll save the New York strip for dinner.
Jamie seems to have the lion's share of the diet, especially when compared to Adam.
Oh. It's not bad. Weird. It's not bad.
But that's definitely better than Carrie, who's on a 24-hour carbonated liquid menu.
Oh, I hope my dentist isn't watching.
Once it's all gone down the hatch, the team goes back to work, where they keep recording any gas production. And after a whole day of diligently monitoring all emissions, are any patterns emerging?
I haven't been doing much more today than I normally do. I've logged 8 today, and 4 of those were little like those kind.
I have logged 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Tell you the
Jamie?
truth.
6. It's about average.
That's what it was at lunchtime.
Yeah, I haven't had any since.
With no conclusions yet, they all continued their diets at home. But did they sleep soundly, or did things go bump in the night?
All right, kids, it's been 24 hours on the new diet. What were the results?
Well, my meat diet cut my flatulence production by about 50%.
Carrie?
I doubled. I went from a 2 to a 5 with carbonated beverages.
Right on.
With a ton of belching.
Everything that wasn't a belch came out the other end. I had stunning results on the beans. I had 9 during the day, 11 more late at night and early in the morning. I didn't even count the ones while I was sleeping, so it was like a 100% increase for me, too.
You're lucky, family.
The results are in. For this crew at least, meat is busted, while bubbly beverages and beans are confirmed big time. So, bring on the final flatulent fact.
So how about the myth that lighting a match after you've passed gas will get rid of the smell?
Well, the question there is it eliminating the smelly gases, or is it actually just masking it with the smell of a burnt match?
Matches have long been the friend of those with stenchy stomachs. But do they fight the flatus by burning off the smelly gases, or do they just conceal the deal? To find out, they've got the 2 smelliest gases that were in Adam's flatus, hydrogen sulfide and methyl mercaptan.
May have pungent or rotten egg odor.
They're going to inject a known concentration of these flammable fumes, one by one, into Adam's sealed chamber.
I'm just taping it up so that it actually holds the gas we're going to put in and doesn't let any air in.
Then they'll light Jamie's remote-controlled match to see if the smelly gas concentration changes.
And there we go.
With a hydrogen sulfide meter in the chamber, it's that gas that they add first.
It's stabilized at 76 parts per million. It's been that way for several minutes. There's no circulation going on here. I've taped up all the little leaks. So I think it's time to hit the match and see whether that changes things, all right?
All right, let's do it.
With the match lit and fully burnt, has the concentration of hydrogen sulfide changed at all?
Still reading the exact same thing, 76 parts per million that it was when we started.
The match has had no effect on the hydrogen sulfide level, so it's time for test 2, methyl mercaptan.
That's not the friendly sort of rotten egg smell that smells like propane.
No, it's the right stuff, to be sure.
That smells like poo.
Different gas, same result. No change in concentration.
The idea that burning a match is actually consuming the smelly gases of Flatus turns out to be totally bogus. Meter worked fine, our chamber worked great, lit a match, didn't notice any drop in the parts per million.
So a match doesn't burn off the smell. It just masks it with its own whiff. But does it conceal both stinky Flatus gases equally?
Excellent. I've rigged a sniff tube onto our chamber. We're gonna feed a little more of the smelly gases in there. We're gonna light a match, and then we're gonna bring out an impartial viewer who hasn't been exposed to these stinky things all day, and they're gonna waft at the sniff tube and tell us if the smell is worse or better or hasn't changed at all.
Well, in the first of these sniffing tests, an hour's worth of hydrogen sulfide from Flatus is injected into the chamber for lucky researcher John to inhale.
I want to do a pre-match lighting smell test. You're going to give us a scale of 1 to 10, and then stand back, we'll light the match, and then I want you to give us a post-match lighting 1 to 10 if you notice any difference at all.
Okay.
All right? So you ready?
Pre-match, I'm ready.
Step in. You got something?
I would give it a 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
5.5.
So keep that in your head. Stand back over here. Jamie, let's light the match.
Okay, lighting the match.
The nose.
About the same.
About the same? Really?
According to the nose, the match has had little masking effect on the hydrogen sulfide. So what about the other killer component? An hour's worth of methyl mercaptan.
On a scale of 1 to 10, this was somewhere around a 4.
Okay.
So it's a pre-match 4 for the mercaptan. But will this one change?
Not as prevalent. It wasn't very intense to begin with. It was about a 4, but I would drop it down to maybe a 2.
Fantastic. That's a bona fide result. It didn't diminish the smell of the hydrogen sulfide, but it did of the methyl mercaptans. Results, man! That's what it's all about.
Storm kite flyers, beware. A bolt of lightning can have over 100 million volts of power. That's way higher than anything humans can replicate. But at the Franklin Thunderdome, the team is going to give the kite its best shot.
We've gone to great pains to set up the experiment to Franklin's original specifications in this controlled environment. And we're going to test under a variety of conditions, wet string, dry string, and what we're really after is what the effect is on the person who's holding the kite.
It's the third and most crucial part of this myth busting. With a 700,000 volt man-made strike, will Franklin turn to toast? Well, Gelatin Ben is standing by to find out. His kite's flying high, the key's next to his finger, and his heart monitor's wired up. Just 6 milliamps across the heart, and Franklin will fly his last.
What I hope's gonna happen is that we're gonna see something spectacular, that the lightning is gonna strike that copper rod, travel down this string, hit the key, arc over to his finger, and then just light him on fire.
Okay, I'm going hot.
Going hot.
We're at 60,000 volts.
60,000 volts.
And for this first test, they're using the dry string.
400,000.
The voltage is climbing fast.
It's actually kind of terrifying. I'm kind of filled with a little dread here.
Here's our lightning.
A special camera called a Corona Cam shows just how much electricity is being slapped onto the kite. It really is in severe shock. But Ben is undeterred. There's no sparking from the key. So it's out with the dry string and in with the wet.
So now we're going to start our second test, so we had to wet the string down, which hopefully will conduct the electricity a little bit better.
Remember, it was the wet string that got the tiny spark with the Van der Graaf.
This should be the main event.
Really?
Yeah.
This is going to be it, huh?
Bring her up.
300,000.
As the voltage rises, one big bolt could frazzle Franklin. But then, disaster strikes.
Oh, it just burned the string.
With the string severed, there's no way for the lightning to reach the key.
The voltage just increased enough to catch the string on fire.
This is not something that I expected, actually.
The slowly building charge up top singed the string, and Grant is stumped for a solution until Tori has a brainwave.
What's happening right now is we're pumping voltage through our string, and it's catching on fire, obviously, we just saw. Is there a way that we can build a charge at the generator and then raise the kite into it so that it's an instant discharge?
It's an ingenious idea that may just prevent the string from igniting.
Okay, going hot.
We're at 440,000 volts. We're going to go to 480.
With the kite suspended well out of the way, the charge up top has reached 500,000 volts.
Ready? All right, should we send the kite in?
As the kite reaches its highest height, bingo! They get their instant discharge. But this time, there's another problem.
Touching the ground now.
Oh, shoot, look at that. I'm not seeing any triggers. It's hitting the ground. Oh, it's arcing to the ground.
Shut her down.
The kite did get a direct strike, but because the string was sagging so low, the charge arced to the floor and never reached the key.
This time what we're going to do is we're going to raise that string up so it doesn't ground out and that we'll get that lightning strike that we're looking for.
With Gelatin Franklin standing by and the authentic key in position, the generator's charge is rising fast.
I never get tired of hearing that noise.
480,000.
480,000 volts. Should we send it up? Let's send it up.
There she goes. Up and away.
With the kite approaching the danger zone, it's now or never for this myth.
There it goes.
They've struck gold. The kite is hit repeatedly, and the charge does travel down the wet string where it finally jumps from the key to Franklin's finger. But after that shock, does he still have a heart?
And it looks like you got enough to kill him.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
Just enough. Ben would be dead.
Definitely dead.
Grant's heart monitor reading proves that Franklin would have fried. Even this man-made lightning contained ample power to kill this famous kite flyer.
This is only a fraction of what a lightning bolt would be. We're looking at just a tiny, tiny, tiny little lightning bolt here. And we fried Ben out. Could you imagine if it was a real storm and a real lightning bolt?
There'd be no way he'd survive.
He'd be dead.
Smoke straight down the string, straight through his heart.
Yeah. And we killed a dead president.
He was never president.
Wasn't he? Damn it. All right, so when we started this myth, we stated that Ben Franklin going out, flying a kite in a storm, gets hit by lightning. That was the myth.
He'd definitely get killed if he flew a kite in a lightning storm. I mean, we've definitely proven that. But, I mean, the experiment itself, that's pretty feasible. I mean, you can get electricity down a kite string.
Not only is it feasible, we did it ourselves, and we got a shock off the key.
Yeah, and that was on a dry day, not too cloudy, and we were still able to get that.
The experiment itself.
Confirmed.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
But the myth is a story, busted.
That was busted.